Next one, Moten and others, 2019 Journal of Physiology. They took 10 recreationally trained young men. They performed 4 resistance exercise conditions. They had a heavy group, so they lifted at 80% of 1 rep max. This group did 1 second down, 1 second pause at the bottom, 1 second up. They did a heavy slow group. 80% of 1 rep max. They went 3 seconds down, so this is slower. 3 down, 1 at the bottom, 3 seconds up. They had a light group. This is 30% of 1 rep max. They went 1 second down, 1 second at the bottom, 1 second up, and then they had a light 30-second slow. So they were at 30%, but they did 3 seconds down, 1 second at the bottom, 3 seconds up. So what they're looking at is fast twitch fibers. So the idea is that only heavy lifting is going to stimulate those high threshold motor units, those fast twitch muscle fibers. And we've talked about this before, how beneficial like plyometrics and fast movement is, obviously, but we're just talking about lifting. When we're talking about like a squat, does it have to be extremely heavy to stimulate those fast twitch muscle fibers? Well, this study shows that that might not be the case. So type 1, that's slow twitch, and type 2 fibers are activated when heavier and lighter loads are lifted to task failure. So as long as we're going towards failure and you don't have to reach failure, but we're getting close to it, right? A couple episodes ago, I talked about stimulating reps. If we want 5 stimulating reps, that could be heavy, a 5 rep max or a 6 rep max, where we finish at 5, but even rep 1 and 2 are hard. Those were stimulating reps. Or you could be lighter for 15 reps. Those first 10 are pretty easy, but those last 5, you're struggling. You're really pushing close to failure. So they say it may explain why resistance exercise training with higher or lower loads, when loads are lifted to failure, result in equivalent muscle hypertrophy and occur in both type 1 and type 2 fibers. So the hypertrophy, the size gains, happen in the fast twitch, not just the slow twitch. It happens in both. So my thoughts, they are looking at activation, muscle fiber activation. They're looking at glycogen depletion. They're looking at anabolic signaling, etc. But they're not looking at shifts in fiber type long term. It's possible that the light rep, the 30%, especially the 30% slow, it is very possible that that light weight, high rep may cause more slow twitch shifts. So as far as percentages go, while heavier weights may not cause that same shift. So what I mean is when you look at the hypertrophy, yes, with that 30% slow group, you could still hypertrophy the fast twitch and hypertrophy the slow twitch. But because you trained in that slow twitch for so long, right, probably 10 of those reps were dominated by the slow twitch, and then the last 5 were dominated by the fast twitch. So if we're looking for a fiber type shift, if you're 50-50 and you're trying to get to 60% fast twitch, 40% slow twitch, we're probably not going to get that shift. And if anything, we might get a shift in the opposite direction. Now, I don't know if that's fact, but that's what intuition would tell you. Whereas the heavy lifting, especially heavy and fast, heavy and explosive, I don't think you can get those shifts in slow twitch because from rep 1 or rep 2, you're already at those high threshold motor units. You're already training fast twitch. So I don't think that you're going to get, and with heavy lifting, you might not get a shift in the fast twitch direction, but I also don't think you're going to get a shift in the slow twitch direction. I think you'll get no shift. So if you're 50-50, I think with heavy lifting, you're going to stay 50-50, but you got those 50% fast twitch bigger and stronger, which can be beneficial in certain circumstances, especially early on in your training career. And like what we talked about before, I think if we're looking for shifts, it's more about what you remove compared to what you add. So if you're a 50-50 and you go do a ton of endurance training, even if you're doing the strength training and the plyos, you might get a shift in that slow twitch direction. But when you're able to program your endurance the right way, and we have certain periods where we get rid of our endurance, certain periods where we bring it back, then you don't have those competing demands. Now maybe you can make that shift in the fast twitch direction. If you're interested in the talk on fast twitch, we have a whole podcast on this, episode 4 with Dr. Galpin. That is a great episode because I know that some people in the YouTube comments are going to say, you can't shift muscle fiber type. You can. And we could potentially shift unlimited. There's no studies showing that there is a cap on how much we can shift. So go check that episode out if you want to learn more about the science on this. But this study is interesting, showing that even the lightweight, even when done at a slow pace, can still hypertrophy those fast twitch.